The tender side of apes. Rethinking empathy in bonobos and chimpanzees. A new study shows that the capacity for consolation in our closest relatives isn't species dependent. It's shaped by age, social bonds, and individual personalities. The myth of the gentle bonobo and the brutal chimp. For decades, anthropologists and primatologists have painted chimpanzees and bonobos with broad opposing strokes. Chimpanzees, the war makers, competitive and hierarchical. Bonobos, the peace-loving egalitarians, matriarchal and sexually cooperative. This narrative has persisted not only in scientific literature but in popular imagination, shaping how we talk about aggression, empathy, and what it means to be human. Constellation in great apes is more determined by who you are and who you're with than what species you are. But a new study published in Evolution and Human Behavior suggests these distinctions might be more stereotyped than science. Researchers comparing acts of constellation in bonobos and chimpanzees found that within species variation, differences among individuals in the same species was more significant than the differences between the two species themselves. We found that individual characteristics such as age, sex, and social bonds played a larger role in predicting whether apes offered constellation than species identity, the authors wrote. In other words, empathy isn't a bonobo trait, it's an ape trait, and one that plays out differently depending on context and community. Constellation in the forest. The researchers, led by primatologists Janie Brooker and Xana Clay, conducted their fieldwork at two African sanctuaries, Chimfunshi Wildlife Orphanage in Zambia for chimpanzees and Lolo Ya Bonobo Sanctuary in the Democratic Republic of Congo for bonobos. The settings allowed them to study both apes in large, semi-wild social groups under comparable conditions over an 8-month period. So, this may have parallels with Sasquatch. Are Sasquatch the same way? Do they also have gifts of consolation? I mean, I realize that Sasquatch can be dangerous because they are wild animals. That's assuming they are animals, of course. But then again, humans are animals as well, so yes, they are animals. So, what sort of implications does this have for Sasquatch? We don't know that yet. We'll know it if we ever get a specimen or get some DNA we can actually compare favorably to actual Sasquatch DNA, if there is any actually out there, if any scientist actually has any, which right now I don't believe they do. It'd be interesting if they did, but right now, no, I don't think there are any scientists that do have actual Sasquatch DNA that they can point to and say, yes, that's Sasquatch DNA. But we're going to keep trying, obviously. Belief in Bigfoot is growing, and Northwoods counties are a hotbed for reported sightings. Now, this is in Wisconsin. Rhinelander. Oh, you can listen to this article. Okay, we'll do that.
Rhinelander, WJFW, the Northwoods, and Rhinelander in particular, have a mythical creature woven into its local history, the hodag. However, the Northwoods is a hotspot for another creature that has captivated the imagination of people not only in Wisconsin, but across the country. Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, is steeped in Native American culture, and belief is strong in the Pacific Northwest and California. However, overall belief in the hairy, ape-like creature roaming the woods is growing, including in Wisconsin. According to Civic Science, more than 1 in 10 American adults believes that Bigfoot is a real, living creature. In a Civic Science survey in mid-July 2022, 13% of U.S. adults said they agree with the statement, Bigfoot/Sasquatch is a real, living creature. That's up from 11% who said the same in May 2020, an 18% increase. Northwoods a Bigfoot hotspot. Latest videos. The Northwoods counties of Price, Oneida and Vilas have combined for 20 reported sightings. In fact, the only county in the state that has more individual documented sightings is Marinette County, according to Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, BFRO. The BFRO lists Marinette County with the most sightings, 9, while Price, 8, Vilas, 7, and Oneida, 6 counties are close behind. I know what some are thinking reading this. A lot of wacky people reporting seeing Bigfoot. That's not necessarily the case. As we will get to later, hunters and former police officers are among the reports of seeing Bigfoot. It seems as if there is more believers or at least skeptics in Bigfoot. There is so much more openness to these ideas with TV shows. Bigfoot Expedition X had an episode, Finding Bigfoot. It's a lot more mainstream, and particularly around the pandemic, people were going out and having experiences, being out in nature, said Barnaby Jones, a Bigfoot researcher and cryptozoologist. Now there is just less of a stigma. I have had this experience, been talked to at conventions where people will come up and say, "Oh, you believe in Bigfoot? That's wild. But I had a ghost in my house." There seems to be a belief in one thing or another. Jones is a cryptozoologist, the study of cryptids or hidden animals. Jones said cryptozoology is about more than just hidden animals, but have actually helped discover animals thought to be extinct and find critically endangered species. Don't think Bigfoot, but more animals that have existed and went extinct: lowland gorilla, Tasmanian tiger, and even the Komodo dragon, he said. Also, the cryptozoology main poster child is the large bluefish, where hundreds or thousands of a previously thought to be extinct fish found in fish markets in Africa. They talked to fishermen who caught these fish, and they discovered actually catch them a lot and the fish alive and well. Bigfoot sightings. One of the most reliable Marinette County sightings was by a retired police officer in July 2018. In the BFRO report, his dogs ran to the edge of the yard, hair up, growling and barking. They were under a yard light. Just out of the light, something called twice, a loud scree, scree. Another reported sighting was by a duck hunter in Vilas County near the Lac du Flambeau Indian Reservation at Powell Marsh in Manitowish waters. The hunter captured a bipedal creature seemingly walking through a bog with ease, which would be incredibly difficult for a person. The hunter said in the BRSO report, "It appears to be bipedal and walking deeper into the swamp in the muck. It is hunting season, and I wouldn't expect a person to be dressed in all black in a public hunting area. I tried walking in it and turned back after about 5 feet." Jones had his own encounter, he says, in Rhinelander in 2020 at Holmboe Conifer Forest State Natural Area. He said they received reports of strange occurrences matching up with duck and geese migrations. He said he recorded some howls with another researcher, and they went to the other side of the Pelican River and found 3 different sized footprints. "That's when it really became real for me," Jones said. "It wasn't a person, but a family unit. There is nothing else this could have been." Northwoods is perfect environment for Bigfoot. With old forests like the Checkmagon and many lakes and wooded areas, researchers say those blend well with supposed Bigfoot diet and habits. There's a lot of dense area in Rhinelander, cypress swamps and pine forests, and a lot of dense foliage and woods in the Northwoods, Jones said. There are forests where people don't go, that are undisturbed. The Bigfoot Mapping Project is a resource where people can report a sighting or vocalizations and has hotspots indicated on the map. Jones says sightings or Bigfoot evidence is common in the Northwoods. If you took a fat Sharpie marker and drew from Lake Tomahawk to Antigo, that's where we get the most of our reports, Jones said. Mountain, Rhinelander, and whole bunch of communities in the area. Bigfoot believers come together at conventions. The regular supposed sightings in Marinette County inspired the Marinette Menominee Bigfoot Convention. There are many Bigfoot conventions each year across the United States. There is also an event this week in Appleton, Friday to Sunday. Sightings in Wisconsin are becoming more commonly reported. It begs the question if there is some truth to it. Whether you think it's a joke, don't believe in Bigfoot, are a skeptic, or fully believe, the reality is, belief is growing, especially in the Northwoods.
And there you go. A lot of people may believe that Wisconsin wouldn't be, you might say, a hotbed of Sasquatch activity. I suppose it depends on where you go in Wisconsin. Never been there, but I'm sure there's areas beyond the big cities, such as Milwaukee, that have large forested areas which have what Don Keating always talks about: food, water, and shelter. Food, water, and plenty of cover. If they have those three things, they can be there and they can survive. If they don't have those three things, well, then they wouldn't be in that particular area. You're certainly not going to find them in big cities, that's for sure. But I'm pretty sure that there's areas in Wisconsin that can harbor such creatures. So, let's try to keep an open mind on the possibility of Sasquatch in Wisconsin. Idaho City unveils Bigfoot influencer. A city in Idaho has enlisted Bigfoot as something of an influencer to showcase what their community has to offer visitors. According to a local media report, the proverbial spokes cryptid was unveiled this week by a tourism group based in Pocatello. Now, for those who don't know, Pocatello is where Idaho State University is. That's where Dr. Jeff Meldrum teaches at Idaho State University. Sharing drone footage of the faux cryptid marching towards community gathering, they explained that he has been hiding in the mountains and forests for so long, but ever since Pocatello has received him with open arms, he's making strides into the public eye. To that end, the group has created various social media accounts for the Pocatello Bigfoot to share the many great experiences and interactions it has had since emerging from the wilderness. The clever campaign from the Idaho City is the latest in what has become a litany of communities that have turned to the legendary cryptid in an effort to increase tourism. Similar spots around the United States include South Milwaukee, which introduced Sam the Sasquatch last July, and the Utah city of Harriman, which boasts a Yeti mascot. Now, whether this will boost, perhaps, you might say, actual research or not, it'll at least draw in tourists. And maybe, if the tourists are lucky, they can go to Dr. Jeff Meldrum's lab at Idaho State University and check out his footprint casts. I imagine, but I'm not sure, that they are by invitation only. But I don't know that for sure. I suppose you have to arrange it with Jeff Meldrum to be able to go to the campus and go to his lab and check out what he's got. But at the very least, this will boost tourism in the area. So, it's a good thing. If they're using a cryptid to do it, all the better. Finally, the Dearness Mermaid, our best attested 19th century cryptid. Dear friends, this month's podcast is on the Dearness Mermaid. The best attested 19th century cryptid background. What is a DM? Between 1887 and 1899, something strange haunted the waters off Dearness, Orkney. Locals called it a mermaid. Newspapers across Britain ran breathless headlines. It had a black head, long white neck, and a white body with two waving arms. It swam like a human, often on its back, and once appeared with a smaller version of itself, its baby. Hundreds saw it. Some tried to shoot it. One of the DM's most enduring features was its habit of not dying. Descriptions are surprisingly consistent across 12 years. The creature had no whiskers, a mane or dark ridge of hair, and was entirely aquatic. At least it was never seen on land. Note its strange head shape. Suggestions range from manatees and dugongs, implausible given geography, to seals, but it didn't match any known seal species. No known seal swims routinely on its back or has a long, obviously articulated neck. A hybrid seal is a tempting theory, though even this stretches credibility given the apparent arrival of a baby. It also means that a breeding population had to be found nearby. So what exactly is this thing? It doesn't seem to be a traditional mermaid. in the sense of a beautiful blonde or dark-haired or red-haired lady, half fish. Seems to be something a bit different. It also seems to stretch the limits of credibility. Hundreds swear they saw it, but it's more likely it was a more mundane species of something else. I don't believe in mermaids. Especially since Animal Planet ran that special about mermaids, which was all made up. So, this is most likely something more mundane. Perhaps an otter? Otters can swim on their backs. I don't know for sure. I can't say with 100% certainty that it was an otter, a large otter, but it could have been. That's entirely possible. It could have been an oversized otter with a baby, for all we know. So, nice try, but no. There's no such thing as mermaids. Never were. And that's going to do it for this week. We want to thank you very much for tuning in. You guys are the heart of the show. I always say that, but I always mean it. And I will continue to do this as long as you guys want me to. And for the last decade I've been doing this, and I've really enjoyed it. And I will continue to do it, of course. And there will be shows at least every Wednesday. Of course, I may take a little time off this summer and only have a show every couple of weeks. Unless there's, you might say, breaking news. But that's about it. Oh, by the way, I want to recommend everybody check out the latest Squatch DTV episode from last, well, actually not the latest, but the ones from last Friday, in which Steve and Chris busted a hoaxer who tried to blame small town monsters because he took a screen grab from one of their documentaries and claimed that it was a real Sasquatch. Well, Steve and Chris pretty much, you might say, shut that down pretty quick. So, you guys can check that out. I may include the link to that show in the description below. Matter of fact, I think I will include the link to that in the description below. So you guys can check it out for yourselves. And see that some people just never learn. Some people just love to hoax for some strange reason. And then blame others for their own hoaxing. I mean, how pathetic is that, right? Anyway, I'll include a link to that in the description below. So, until next week, y'all be good or be good at it. It's HBM's Cryptid-Corner.